Okay, good afternoon to everyone, and good morning to anyone that's still on the West Coast. I appreciate you taking the time today to partake in what we're going to kind of call a little bit of a hybrid here of a webinar approach as well as an open discussion. We're going to take a little bit more of an open discussion approach on this since there could be so much great conversation around R2v3. I asked Michael from Glacier Consulting, who is an expert in this space, to join us today and kind of help us or help you essentially prepare yourselves and better understand R2 and how you can build more of a solid foundation when it comes to looking at becoming R2v3 as well. Another thing, what I mean by open discussion too is feel free during this presentation to take yourself off mute, ask away. This is more of an intimate crowd. There's just about a dozen of us on here today. If you don't want to, that's fine as well. You can put your questions in the chat as well, or just listen. So I do appreciate everyone from around North America here jumping on board. And then also Michael for presenting today. So Michael, I'll hand it off to you. Everyone knows who I am already, John with IQ Reseller, and then I'll let you introduce yourself.
Hey, thanks, John. Thanks everybody for joining this afternoon. East Coast time, it's this afternoon. My name is Michael. As John said, I'm the president of Glacier Consulting. We are involved heavily in helping companies, assisting companies become certified to R2. That is my specialty. I do R2 related work, whether it's implementing, maintaining, working on compliance issues for R2 companies 50, 60 hours a week. It's actually a passion of mine. Got involved about 10, 12 years ago working for a large recycler, and then I moved on to consulting. And so the idea, like John said, is hopefully we're going to spur some conversation, some thought, if you're thinking about going R2, these are some things to think about, to get in your mind. And hopefully if you have questions, let's use this as an opportunity to talk about questions that come up from some of the conversation we're going to have. No matter where you are, whether you're thinking about it this year, thinking about it Q1 of 2024, maybe it's a couple of years from now, something like that. Let's see kind of what conversation we can start. So let's move on here. All right, so I gave you a little bit of stuff for me. This is an advertising thing that we stick in here, but like I said, been with Glacier now for almost 6 full years, and prior to that, I came from a large recycler where I did R2 compliance for about 16 North American facilities. So U.S., Canada, Mexico was where I played a key role in that. Okay. Glacier set up in 2017 by a man named Scott Jones, still part of the company, works with me every day. We do all kinds of things. Like I said, R2 is our main area of focus, but we do the ISOs, we do the RIOs, we do downstream vendor audits, all those kind of things. If you share this, all this stuff will be part of the slideshow if anybody wants to see that. Okay, hold on real quick. All right, we're going to start. I'm going to fix this here, and we're going to talk about reasons why companies become R2. All right. Sorry about that. Give me a second. I'm just trying to get this.
You can see how much testing and pre-rehearsal that went into this.
Yeah. We were just rehearsing, and now it's not giving me what I'm asking for. So hold on. I may just need to reopen it. But the first topic is reasons why companies will go to R2, and it may be a great topic for anyone who's on this call. The first one may be, customer requirements. Customer requirements, I see it all the time. People will come to me and say, hey, Michael, I need to become certified because so-and-so customer told me I have until June 1st to at least start the process or become fully certified or they're going to, start looking at another option. So of course we don't want that. Let's put a plan together to talk about how we're going to get there. There is here we go. This should be a little bit better for us. Sorry about that. Customers do this all the time for companies and say, hey, let's see who's going to want to formalize their processes so that we can continue doing business with them. Usually when you get involved with a consultant company like mine, or you get involved with a certifying body, they produce a letter of intent or a letter of plan, something along that lines that you can then go back to your customer and say, see, here's my plan to become certified. I'm in the process, things like that. See that all the time. And I think there's going to be more and more of customer requirements coming down the line. Corporate or company requirements, maybe you're a part of a division or a brother or sister company to a corporate head that comes down the line and will say, we want you to, become certified by such and such time, or, we need you to become certified. Again, timelines are something that we deal with all the time to help companies get there. But that could be a reason. C, sourcing equipment from upstreams. See a lot of that lately is like, hey, we want to do business with some other upstreams that may have better quality equipment, or just maybe opening some other avenues. And the upstreams have developed a threshold to say, want you certified before I can sell you any equipment, especially if it's repair equipment or untested equipment. Some people on the call may know about the downstream vendor requirement in R2, which actually we're going to talk a little bit more about. But being R2 helps that upstream kind of solidify their process, and that helps them a lot. Sourcing equipment from colleges, hospitals, or government agencies. Have seen this a lot since about 2021. The first time I saw it was the city of New York. Said, hey, listen, if you want to buy equipment from us, we need to see that you're R2 certified. College and hospitals have jumped in. A lot of clients lately have come to me saying, hey, I need the certification because of this is kind of who we're going to go after. Carrier auctions in E. That's probably the #1 reason that we'll see uptick in R2 certification, usually around in the middle of the year. And I think that's because that's when the conferences start, and a lot of people will attend the conferences, find out from the R2 folks that the certification process, and then they want to jump in. And a lot of times to source from AT&T, Verizon, some of the big carriers, that is a reason. And simply companies will come to us just because they want to build transparency. They want to show all the good things that they're doing. They want to be able to stand behind everything they're doing. And one of the best ways to do that is have an independent party come in, take a look at everything they're doing, and then obviously they approve it. They walk away with that certification that kind of it's a thing to stand behind and be happy and be proud of, because you go through this voluntary process that I think if I look on the series site today, there's less than 1,200 companies throughout the world. So might be something that some of you folks are dealing with, or that you want to move forward in R2 on. The next section that I built in here is talking about building on a foundation that I'm sure a lot of the people on this call, your companies already have. As you may know, to become certified to R2 or any certification usually requires a robust documentation system. So I'm sure there's some things that your company already has in place, maybe work instructions, maybe a safety manual, maybe some quality related things. All these are a good start. And the reason why I wanted to talk about the foundation is, again, I hear it sometimes, oh, it takes so long, there's so much to do. All of that it can be true, but I'm sure there's some things that are already there that you're gonna take, and then we're gonna build on top of to help move towards certification. And that documentation, there's obviously going to be some things that most companies that start the process are not going to have. They're not going to have an R2 reuse plan, probably not going to have a data sanitization plan. Those are R2 specific documents. Legal compliance, a lot of times companies have not identified that, and that is an important thing to put. So all these go together, and whatever documentation is in place is important because we just build on top of that. Testing equipment for functionality. And it's not that, okay, so let's get into this conversation. Most companies are probably testing at some level, and that's important, especially if you're selling for reuse. Can we tell, is this functional? So if you're already doing that, that's great. Then let's build upon that. Are we testing the functionality that needs to be there? So maybe some tweaks need to be made. If we're doing a manual test, which is allowed under R2v3, then we have to make sure that we're documenting that functionality of that piece of equipment. So probably some things there that we can totally build upon, or that you can build upon, so that it doesn't make the process so daunting as you start to move forward. Sanitizing any personal identifiable information. Absolutely super important in the R2 world. I'm sure customers of yours, whether you're doing a factory reset or whatever you're doing, wants to be sure that that information cannot get out. Whether we're talking about, tax returns, medical records, or even, pictures and stuff like that that could get out, that they just don't want anybody having access to that. It's important to know that V3 does require a software be in place for any devices that go under sanitization. So no longer can you do the factory reset. If a software exists, you must use it. So that's important to know. And I'm sure that most of the people on this are using some kind of a software, or at least factory resetting. And so therefore, let's have a discussion on where you need to go from there. Downstream vendors, I'm sure, are for a lot of people already in place. The vendors are super important to take off any untested or non-functional equipment that are going to go down through the streams. Maybe somebody's going to repair them. Maybe somebody's going to do a materials recovery and get those devices out of the system. R2, if you're going to become R2, having an R2v3 downstream is always best. It simplifies the due diligence process. However, if you've got a great downstream vendor that you're happy with, that you trust, that handles the equipment appropriately, and they're just not interested in going through R2v3, there's still a way to get there. It's just a more extensive due diligence process to get them to get them approved. But really, the most successful companies I work with have long-term vendors in place. They do visits of the vendors. There's regular communication, all that great stuff. So whether they're R2 or non-R2, there's still a way to get there. But really building that long-term relationship is super important for payments, for whatever, records, whatever we need from them. That really helps.
Yeah, and one thing to really hone in on this is there's really, I look, there's three main components, and Michael, you can expand more on it too as well. But when you're building upon your foundation, I really think that you should be looking at what's the environmental responsibility that you in your organization has to adhere to, what's the legal compliance that you guys have to adhere to, and then the data security policy around this as well. So if you're looking at those three main areas right there, you're building a rock solid foundation for your certification, but also for your company, and then providing better services externally as well.
Absolutely, John. And the legal compliance is so very important, not only for R2, but as a company grows, getting in touch with those requirements and knowing where you stand, because as the company grows, your liabilities grow, and making sure that those things are where they need to be, compliance wise, and it could be I mean, we could have a webinar 6 hours long to talk about all the compliance related things that companies have to put in place. But you're 100% right on the data security process. Any of those things that are already part of your company, all of those will go into play as trying to put your R2 together to make that foundation grow, because that way you're not recreating the wheel. You don't have to go back to the basics. You already got some robust stuff to build upon. All right, very good. The next slide is talking about how IQ Reseller. I know everybody on this call has either is a customer or going to be at some point. I want to just talk about my experience for IQ Reseller going through putting together an R2 together. One of the biggest requirements that we have is under V3 is they introduced the R2 equipment categorization requirement. So now as a company receives devices, we need to decide, is this R2 applicable? Meaning, does it need further evaluation, testing, data sanitization, quality control, all those great things? If it is, then we have to identify it as such in our system. Once we identify that it's R2 applicable, now where does that device stand data sanitization wise? So you receive it as maybe having data or I'm not sure. That then kicks off some other requirements. And I'm going to tell you that John and his team, they really know what they're talking about. I've done probably 5, 6 R2 audits in the last year where they've used IQ Reseller. It's been great. I haven't seen an auditor identify a problem. So we have to determine what it is we can capture, how to capture it, that kind of stuff. Once you process equipment, now we need to make 3 determinations in our inventory and as it gets ready to be sold. The first is, how does it change in data sanitization status? So that should be in your system as well. So it came in as having data. Now I can show that the data has been handled with a software and now it's ready to go. The second would be, what is the cosmetic description of it? And the standard gives you definitions of that. And then a functionality description. So these are what you're identifying to your buyer or your potential customer on where those devices stand. And there's no better way than to capture it in the ERP. And like I said, IQ has done a great job of helping clients build that in so that they're in compliance with that. And not only the R2 equipment categorization requirements, but the throughput. Throughput is everything in, everything out, and how we can prove that, whether it went to an end user or it went to a downstream vendor. Again, John and his team do a great job on the throughput.
No, Michael, I do appreciate that as well too. And to highlight a couple of those as well, I want to kind of just point out there to just kind of make you kind of think about that for a little bit. Is it also the ERP system is supposed to make lives easier, so it's going to make the ease of use for compliance easier as well. So when an auditor is coming in or a internal auditor is coming in as well, this is your centralized source of truth to store the data required for your compliance as well. It provides with secure chain of custody and traceability of everything that's going on within your environment as well too. So that's what makes it so critical. So building upon a good process along with your software can make R2 planning much simpler.
Absolutely. And we've talked about the horrors out there, John, of everything that some companies try to get away with. I really think your comment on the ERP making your life easier. If you're going to go down the road for R2, or you're going to go down the road for really any certification, a lot of times they want to take a look and see what's coming in, what's going out, and classifying it correctly is going to be really where you want to go. The last topic that I want to talk about is the pathway to certification. So, and this is hopefully going to spur a little conversation, if not in this webinar, then hopefully among you and your leaders and people on your team, is every pathway is unique, depending on some of the things we just talked about up above. Whether where you stand testing, where you stand data, where you stand downstream vendors, any documentation, anything is going to help you determine what kind of a time frame, what kind of a pathway you're looking at. Determine your budget is always important. Couple things that you know need to think about is, you want to hire a wonderful consultant like me, then, there's a price for that. And then there's going to be a certifying body. And we're going to talk about that a little bit more in D, but they have a fee. And then Siri right now has a $2,000 a year facility license that goes to trademark license and stuff like that you have to be a part of. And then whether there's additional software or additional needs, all that kind of comes together in that budget. You may have to talk about some training. You may have to talk about, I don't know, any other new equipment that may come about to make life easier, to make it more efficient, to make you feel like you're on hitting the road. Or it may be a legal compliance thing that may come in that we need to get some other things in place. The next big thing in C is the ISO versus the RIO. So if you think of R2 as being the roof of the building, we have to have walls hold that up. And there's two different ways you can do that. You could do the ISO route. ISO would be 3 separate certifications. 14,001, which is environmental management, 45, which is health and safety. And if you do testing, then 9001, the quality has to be there. ISO is, for the most part, more recognized than RIOS. A lot of people come to me and I give them this discussion and they're like, well, wait a minute, I don't even know what RIOS is. Well, RIOS basically is all 3 of those put together in one certification. More recognized in Canada and Europe, but it's building up here in the United States. R2 got into agreement with them, I think, back in 2021. The main advantage of RIOS is that in your certifying body audits, they can deduct about 15 to 20% of the time for the audit, because instead of 3 separate certifications, it's 1. So when you get your quote from the certifying body, when you go to have an audit every year, you'll see that you'll see that savings, and that is a big seller to a lot of companies. RIOS is I do both ISO and RIOS on a weekly basis. I think they both work great. They both have a lot of the same requirements. RIOS, however, does require an annual membership fee. I believe it's $1,250 now. So add that to your Siri license, $3,250 just for membership fees that you got to build into your budget. So open for any questions or anything like that on ISO versus RIOS. It just really depends on what the company wants, and then I'm happy to answer any questions anybody might have on that. And then the last one that I've identified, this is not an exhaustive list. This is going to be the major things that I think that you should put your attention to, is choosing a certifying body. So the certifying body is the one who's going to come in and audit you. They're the ones that are going to produce the certification that's backed by ANAB that says, yes, you are a certified company. One of the first things you got to do is, you got to get a quote from them, find out their costs, find out kind of what you're looking at, so you can put that in your budget as well. But you also want to see, can they meet your timeline, whatever that is. If you want to go fast, then can they meet that? Do they have auditors maybe that are in your geographical area, so that you can save money on travel and think about that in your budget? Most auditors are booked out 3-4 months in advance. So you might want to, when you make that choice of going down the R2 road, you start thinking about, who's my certifying body? Can they meet what I need to? All kinds of things that I can give you information on all of them. I work with all of them. I do have my favorites, so I'll save that if anybody wants to talk that over. But now I want to open it to questions. So I hit some topics here that hopefully will help somebody. But John, I don't know if we have a way of doing this where people raise their hand or just open it up for questions.
Just open up for questions. You
Okay.
can take yourself off mute, ask away, or you can put it in chat if you don't want to speak aloud, or if you may need to let it sit and ponder this a bit more. One of the things I do want to say is, coming from an ITAD background as well, and not just within software at IQ, is that R2 is essentially a tool in a marketing tool that's you're gonna have these compliant auditors come in, and when you're doing ITAD work or you're doing government work, and their auditors, those external auditors, are going to come in. Essentially, this is going to give you a book of exactly what it is that your companies do and how they do it, and it not only treated as a marketing material, but a tool to allow you to truly scale, because you have those processes built in place with it. And that's what R2 is really doing. Is, don't look at it as it's regulation and it's going to make lives harder to do business. No, but that comes with at the cost of putting in quality control points within your process, and that's what this is really designed to do. And it's really to make your business better and allow it to scale to meet the demands out there.
Absolutely, John. I agree with that. Some of the best companies that I have seen that have grown off of becoming R2 have followed that process. The last slide I have here is my contact information. I just want to throw that out there for anyone who may have questions that they don't want to ask during the webinar. Even if you're not ready, even if you're you just have questions, the more knowledge that we have in the industry, the more information that gets out there, makes the process stronger, makes all of us it just makes everything better. So I'm willing to ask questions, even if you're not gonna come to me for R2 certification. Feel free to reach out at any time. So what questions might we have?
This is Melissa from Velocity Tech Solutions.
Hi,
So,
Melissa.
Michael and John, we have obviously are using IQ Reseller, else we wouldn't be on this meeting. Is there any updates or anything that we would need to do with the software we already use with IQ Reseller that put us that much closer to R2, or is it the out of the box solution for at least the ERP part of the going to R2v3?
It is out of the box, so everything you need is there and enabled within the system right now. Could there be little tweaks, and could there be little process changes or expanding on your attributes to meet the categories requirement for the categorization requirement of our R2? There could be a little bit of work that's done, but everything you need is there within the system. We never had to go out and build new things for customers to be R2 compliant. Good. That's a good question, though.
Yeah, great question. Yeah. And maybe I brought that up by saying, John and his team will help you. I mean, obviously it's already there, but if there's every company may have their own stuff they want to put in. So that's kind of where I was going with that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and during any step of the R2 process, we are always here to assist. And so is Michael's team too.
Hey guys, Jason from Quipt. I've got a quick question for you.
Yeah, go ahead, Jason.
Yeah, so you mentioned that having a consultant as part of this process is not required, or it is?
It's not necessarily required. I mean, the way I look at it is companies are experts at what they do. We're experts at what we do. But yeah, I mean, if you've got somebody that's got a little bit of experience, and it's not required.
Got it. It seems very complex from my vantage point, and I just wonder if you have any experiences with people that try to go it alone and then have to turn to you down the path. I mean, it sounds like a lot of work that you've really perfected, but maybe you can just talk about that, because we do see some people and they'll come to us and say, hey, should I do this myself or should I get a consultant? Yeah, maybe you can just
Yeah,
answer
no,
to
that's
that.
great, Jason. Great question, great topic. And actually, on another webinar that I do, I actually cover this. But yeah, usually when a company says, you know what, I'm going to go at it alone, a lot of times, I would say 75, 80% of the time, they come back to us and will say, I've got this done, can you look at it? And it really will then just basically, we need to take it down and then build a new system. It's very intricate. We got to make sure everything connects, documentation wise, process wise, within the framework of the standards. So yeah, we will see that. I highly recommend it. Again, you're basically going to input a full-time project to people who are already working full-time on other things. So if you can afford it, if you can build it into your budget, it's the most efficient way. And if you get the people with the right experience, you're going to get across that goal line, because they're going to be with you no matter what comes up. And we see it in every implementation. There's challenges. I call it the glitch for the mission. What is the glitch for this mission? Is it going to be training? Is it going to be testing? Is it going to be whatever it may be? So having the right people then to kind of navigate those waters are super important. I would highly recommend a consultant at some level. Yes.
Yeah, it's definitely a good question for sure. Consultants can make it can make a lot of challenges go away quicker, and get your investment starting to pay for itself quicker as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I think it's money well spent. I mean, if you were to go out and hire someone and then pay them, and then, some people will say, hey, Michael, should I hire an EHS department or at least a couple of people in to do the R2? Absolutely, that is a route that you can take. But I rarely see, I mean, this is kind of a really niche area. So there's a few of us out there that do it very well. There's a few of us out there that do it not so well. So when hiring a consultant, I would highly suggest you do your homework, do some due diligence, get some referrals, and go that way. I hear horror stories all the time about what people think consultants charge. I've heard $40,000 or $50,000. If you're paying that much, then that's not good. Not good for me, not good for the industry. I mean, you're not even going to reach that amount for the full process consultant, certifying body, all that stuff. No way should you be getting way up into that amount. So anyways, do your homework, make sure you get people that have the right experience and have the right, that know the people that you know. That's the best way to go about it. Any more? Go ahead.
Sorry, I was going to let other people ask questions, but I do have one more. So let me give up the microphone for anybody else.
I say go for it, Jason.
Beautiful. How long have you been doing this, Michael?
Yeah, I've been doing it 12 years now. Started, like I said, with a large recycler, Clover Technologies Group. We started to put in R2 2011. So that's when I did my first R2. And then in 2018, I rolled into the consultant role, where like I said, I do this every single day. One of my passions is I work routinely with the folks at Siri, not only on the stuff that's coming up, whether it's a new appendix, whether it's a new requirement that's going to be coming in 2000 or R2 version 4, but ongoing stuff that the standard just doesn't give us great guidance on. And so therefore I can build the practice out that way. I learn from every single audit that we go through. Every single project, like I said, brings up its own challenges, where we then can build the documentation, build the practice in a way that we're ready to help the next client, maybe a little stronger in building a system, maybe just ready for other challenges that come along. But yeah, it's what I do every single day. I really have a passion for it, and hopefully some of that comes across. Hopefully folks get the feeling that, you know, this is not a process that is going to just never come, you know, is not going to happen. I mean, you get started, you get through it with the right people, you get the right direction, and then you see an end to that certification, or see an end to becoming certified.
Definitely comes across to me, Michael. Last question. You've been doing this 12 years. The remarketing of these products, the shift to online. My business is in powering online businesses. So I'd just love to hear a little commentary over those 12 years, how you've seen the online business kind of affect the clients that you've worked with.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that we do when we're building a system is talk about, you know, business development, because they go hand in hand. Building the certification and developing the business go together. So especially since 2018, when I got into consulting, I've seen a big need for that, because a lot of the companies I work with, so, you know, a lot of them are startups, and they're like, hey, listen, I need to start making money. And we go to the online portals, you know, whether it's Amazon, well, eBay first, because Amazon, you got to get through a couple of certification processes for that. But yeah, I've seen that grow. I can't imagine it's going to go anywhere else but grow. We see new new platforms popping up all the time that people want to get into. I've got a couple that are startups that are not companies, but startup platforms that are selling used electronics that are really starting to move around. So yeah, I've definitely seen it grow. It's not going to go anywhere. It's just going to keep growing.
No, and to elaborate on that to a bit too, if you look at where the educational standpoint is on used IT equipment and how it can get a second chance at life, is that's kind of being taught from a generational standpoint down and onward, to where it's going back to the older generations from the 50s, 60s, and 70s that used to repair their stuff until it literally couldn't break, and that kind of went away. Now it's coming back again, to where as it gets become more and more promoted to fix it until you literally can't fix it again, it's going to drive and accelerate this to open up many doors for multiple opportunities now.
Absolutely.
Thanks a lot, guys. I've been a part of the last few IQ reseller webinars. Just got to say, this is by far the best one.
Very good. Thank you, Jason. Appreciate it.
Appreciate that. Is there anything else? I know we have gone over. Michael, I do appreciate your time.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm willing to stay on if people have questions. Again, otherwise you can contact me as needed.
Yeah, and I will share this recording out there in the next day or two. And then if you need to, like you said, contact Michael for questions, or get in touch with me, and I can put you in touch with Michael as well.